We do face many challenges in the world. We looked at some of them before. Some of the greatest challenges to social cohesion, if you're a civic worker, are things like the wealth gap. In the UK today, we have the widest wealth gap in the last 40 years. It's widening, in fact, in the USA as well, and I suspect Australia. 1% of China's population inherits its wealth, but in the UK it's still 25%. We have a technology gap around the world. By 2015, 5 million households in sub-Saharan Africa will get their very first television set. Yes, 25% of the globe is using the internet, but for most of that 25%, broadband is impossible. So what they're getting is not a very good service. There's a travel gap. 90% of the global population will never leave the land of its birth. That, compared with 28 million people in Europe that travel every day, that's a significant gap in travel opportunities. But research that we have done and others has shown that, or suggested that, the biggest area of challenge to social cohesion over the next 10 or 15 years is not issues relating to any of the above, nor gender, race, or religion. The biggest cause of division in community, perhaps over the next 10 years, will be generational, for reasons I'll go into in a moment. There are, of course, 5 generations extant at this time, but 3 that have real influence in the global conversation. How many baby boomers are here and proud of it? All right, we are the make love not war, make babies not bombs, imagine all the people, that's us, generation. You know, we were shaped by certain things in our youth. We are a fairly idealistic generation. Generation X following us, aged today between late 20s and late 40s in Australia. Quite different, taking the name today from the book by Douglas Copeland, who suggested that his generation, Generation X, did not really know where it fitted into a system it had not invented, hence the name. The millennials are different again. They are today my children's age, mid-20s and under, down to about low teens. After that, we have what some people call Generation Z, and then we run out of letters and start again. Each generation, oh, that's cool. I like that. Did you get all that? You got to buy the DVD and pay it slow, you see. That's what you do. Each generation is like an individual. It has a biography. It's not about when you're born that shapes your generational thinking. It's the experiences you share with a cohort of people of your own age. That's what shapes what generation you belong to. I said we boomers are fairly idealistic. It's been said that Steven Spielberg's only ever made one movie. He's just made it many times. Because all of Spielberg's movies are about the little guy achieving something big. And that idea of heroism runs very strongly through boomer culture. When Martin Luther King declared, "I have a dream," he wasn't a boomer, but it was we boomers who took up the dream. When JFK said, "Ask not what your country can do for you," it was we boomers who heard that and responded in the Peace Corps and in other areas. Because we are largely an idealistic and, in a way, quite individualistic generation. The do your own thing is a statement we coined for situation ethic, but we made it even more personal, more individual than it was in its original form. Sometimes we have problems with Generation X because they're not idealistic in the same way. They're very pragmatic. If you're a boss and an employer and a boomer, and you've got Gen Xers on your team, you will know this already. Because you will know that while you're telling them the great dream you have, the great vision, where the company's going to go, where the enterprise is going to move, they're looking at you with glazed expressions, as if to say, look, I don't really want to hear this. I don't need this. I want to know how we're going to make it happen. I want to talk about the pragmatic reality. Let's cut the rap in the key of C and let's get down to the real grassroots. These people want grassroots activism. That's what they're about. They're also a very communal generation. In the 90s, the #1 TV program in the States was Friends. Remember that? And half of the action happened in a coffee shop. Remember that? Why was it the #1 show? Because it was watched by more Gen Xers than any other show. Why? Because that's what they want. Friendship. It's a generation that in many ways came along at a time when boomers, their parents, were dealing with the self-actualization of the 60s and the greed is good of the 80s, and in the process leaving their kids behind. This was not a generation, in many ways, I'm talking generically, that was well parented or well nurtured. Hence their desire, largely, to find friendship, to find nurturing in some way.